Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryant and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 30. He's Dave Bryant. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. I apologize if I sound different. I'm sure I do, and probably sound a lot worse, because I have a backup headset. Previous headset died just randomly yesterday, so that's been my luck lately. But I'm glad we don't have a lot of semi-important Steelers-related news to talk about, Dave. No big stories broke last night for us to discuss today.
Not on the Steelers. Some ex-Steelers maybe, but certainly not any Steelers news as of yet. And obviously, Mike Tomlin talked to the media on Tuesday, so we'll be recapping what he had to say. And we got our buddy Scott Petrak back on later on the show to start getting us ready for Steelers versus Browns in Week 6.
Yeah, we'll talk to Scott here in a little bit. You can follow him on Twitter at Scott Petrak. He covers the Browns for the Chronicle, Telegram, and Medina Gazette. So excited to have him back on the show in a little bit. All right, Dave, do you want to start with the elephant in the room with one Le'Veon Bell, or do you want to start Steelers and circle back to L. Bell later in the show?
Yeah, can we talk about Fungible running backs?
You've been sitting on that one for a while, haven't you?
But we need to get some sound effects going on in the show. But
didn't you do that once? You had a soundboard.
Yeah.
I'm glad it went away.
I can't get all. It's like that, like the clown in the circus there that's got all those plates spinning, on the sticks and all like that. Mm-hmm. You get over here and you try to spin these, keep that plate spinning. You run back over here and try to get that one before it's, I can't get all the plates. It's the story of my life. I can't get all the plates spinning at one time, kind of thing there. But look. Color me unsurprised when it comes to this Le'Veon Bell news.
Yeah, it's certainly been coming to a head, at least recently.
I was off by 5 games.
Yeah, you were a little. It happened earlier than I think what we expected, but Bell and Adam Gase got into a bit of a more social media spat with Bell, unhappy about his usage in last week's game and not getting involved in the pass game versus who was at Arizona, and finally the Jets just pulled the plug on the Le'Veon Bell experiment. And then they tried to trade him at first. They admitted that in their statement yesterday, late last night when the news came along that Bell was released. And so now he is a free agent, free to sign anywhere. And I imagine he will sign with a team. And the question is, will it be Pittsburgh? Very likely not. But I do think Bell is still a good player, better than how the Jets use them, obviously, and can still help a team win.
I think he obviously will land somewhere. I'm not convinced it will be right out of the chute here. I think it's in his best interest right now to sit a little while here and let the market kind of come to him, if you will. Running backs around the league are going to get injured, okay? It's just what happens. And if a playoff team, look, I think right out of the chute, I think the Patriots might be a team that could have some interest in him. What is his market value right now at this point? If you look and see what Freeman just signed for the Jets, I think that's kind of the floor for Le'Veon Bell. Look, this isn't the same Le'Veon Bell, obviously, from several years ago, but I think he's still I think he's still a guy that can touch the football 18 times a game and provide, especially in the passing game, something. We always talk about Le'Veon Bell and how good a pass protector he is, so that's something that he's got going for him as well. I'm not convinced he signs with a team right out of the chute here. Once again, I think he might be best served to get a little healthier here. I don't expect him to sign a multi-year deal. I think it's his best interest to sign a one-year deal, kind of showcase what he can do, and maybe try to cash in one last time, after the season's going. I still think to some degree he's a little bit overrated. By if you were to ask several people their opinion on him, do I think he's going to land in Pittsburgh? No. Do I think he should land in Pittsburgh? No. They don't, they really don't have a salary cap space. I don't think they need that kind of persona back in that locker room. Again, people forget some of the quotes that he had to say about Ben Roethlisberger and others on the way out the door there. I think he left a bad taste in people's mouth. And look, this is a guy that the thing on him throughout his career is, can he deliver the big run or the explosive play? More so in the passing game, but in the running game, he hasn't had an explosive run since Christmas 2017 against the Texans, right? That's always kind of been the knock on him. So unless he was willing to sign for the minimum and come in with his tail between his legs, and which I don't see happening, that's the only way I could see entertaining the thought of him returning to Pittsburgh. I will be absolutely shocked, floored, stunned, insert whatever you want, adjective into that if he shows back up with the Steelers. I think the Patriots are a good fit. I think Colts are maybe a good fit. Maybe the Bears along those lines. So best of luck to him. But I told you this was coming right out of the chute. I said AB and Le'Veon Bell be one and done with their new teams. I was almost right on the money with that. And boy, the Jets, they got a clean house again with their front office and their coaching staff.
Well, that's how everything started with Bell and the Jets. Was Mike Maccagnan, the old Jets GM, signed Bell. Adam Gase did not want Bell to be signed. Maccagnan gets fired like 2 months after all the free agent money they had spent, and then Gase was kind of stuck with Le'Veon Bell, and then they just kind of soured from there and never used him properly, and Bell clearly wasn't happy with the situation he was in with the mess that the Jets are right now. It's not that I'm adamantly opposed to bringing Bell back, but this is a 4-0 team. They're healthy at running back. They have a good collection at running backs. Are they all better than Le'Veon Bell? No. Anthony McFarland, Benny Snell are not better than Le'Veon Bell as we see there today, but why upset the apple cart? And if you're going to bring Bell in, it can't be just a bit piece backup. It'd have to be a significant role because A, that's what he's going to want, and B, if you're going to take on the distraction and attention that the move like that's going to bring, I mean, the juice better be worth the squeeze of bringing Bell in to really get some real tangible impact and value out of him. So I just can't see it happen. I mean, that's an easy answer to give. Every team can sit there and say that it's probably not going to be their team, but I just don't really have any expectation that Bell's going to circle back, despite the Steelers' recent love affair with reunions.
And what does it say? You've gone all offseason saying Connor's your bell cow, right. And there's been all that positive stuff about Benny Snell and how second year and expect him to have a better season and all this positive. So what does it what does it say? What does it tell the rest of your franchise then? If you turn around as a 4-0 team, and look, I mean, are Connor and Benny Snell regarded as the best 1-2 punch in the league? No. If you add McFarland in there, does it help it any as far as perception? No. But I mean, McFarland's barely touched the football yet anyway on top of that. So what does it say to bring a guy in? Look, you're not, let's face it, Le'Veon Bell's not going to come in and sign for the minimum, or at least I don't think he does. So you're talking about probably a $3 million or so up to contract with him. And what does that just tell the guys? If you're going to instantly bring him in and pay him more than a third of the rest of your roster there, it just all signs point to no in the story.
Now, hypothetically, if Connor were to go down, let's say this weekend, hopefully he doesn't, of course, that may change that would obviously change the complexion of the situation, and that may make me more open to bringing Bell in, assuming he's still available.
Yeah, even if that happened, though, I mean, I think you can. I think you got enough fungibility there with Snell and McFarland and Jalen Samuels, to get you through with what you need. But I mean, where they are right now, no, sure. Absolutely not. And look, I think there's a few scars left over from some of the things he said as well too. And once again, I don't think he brings to the table what most people think he brings to the table at this point. Yes, I love him as a pass protector. Yes, I think he still has some things to offer out of the backfield as a receiver. But as a pure runner, no.
Well, it's just so tough to judge because that Jets situation has been such a mess. The offense has been the worst in football the last 2 seasons. So it was just a difficult circumstance for Bell to really even evaluate him in. I'm sure you put him with a better coaching staff, a better scheme, a better quarterback, better pass game, like this dude's going to look closer to where he was in Pittsburgh as opposed to what he's done or what he hasn't done with New York.
That first couple seasons that he had, I was thinking to myself, man, I think I wrote some things about it, kind of comparing some of his numbers to like Eddie George, the first couple of years and all like that. And the way his all around game seemed to be developing and all like that. There was a part of me that thought Le'Veon Bell could be, Hall of Fame, and putting that out there is a little rich. I'll admit, but I thought there was a chance that Le'Veon Bell could potentially, if he kept his head on straight and stayed healthy, could potentially be one of the, kind of all time, better running backs that the league has seen. If he had the longevity to play 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Now look, we all know that magic 300 touch number. When running backs hit that number, usually things tend to go south on them. It certainly seems to be have been the case with him. Do I think he has something to offer a team right now moving forward, a playoff team? Yes. Depends on what kind of attitude that he has and the kind of the fit and all like that. All that said, though, it's hard for me to wrap my brain around it being the Steelers.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Again, you're a 4-0 team. The locker room's in good shape. Your running backs overall have done well. James Conner's still healthy and I think having a decent season overall. And I don't view Le'Veon Bell as some sort of major cancer in the locker room the way that Antonio Brown really, just was unsustainable to keep him around. Obviously Bell was not perfect and there was some drama and attention, and I didn't always like every single thing the dude said and tweeted, but I don't know if that dynamic is so insurmountable to not bring him in. But again, you're just healthy right now. You've talked up James Conner, and I just don't see him providing enough value to really justify the move right now. I think the only way it happens if there's a significant injury and Bell's still available. All right. Dave, so that's our Le'Veon Bell news, and we won't harp on that for too much today because we don't really expect him to become a Steeler.
Do you think he's going to land somewhere right out of chute here, or do you think it's going to be a few weeks?
I think it'll be sooner than later. Obviously, I know the guy keeps himself in tremendous shape, but you don't want to wait too long or potentially worry about just some general football conditioning issues. And I'm sure he'll have a fairly attractive market pretty quickly, just given the just number of running back injuries there have been this year. So, it may be a week or so, but I think he'll land on his feet pretty quickly.
$3-4 million up to kind of contract.
Yeah, it's just weird because not many guys of his caliber come on the market, so not teams don't have a ton of money right now. Obviously, I'm with you. He's going to do a 1-year deal. He's not going to do a multi-year deal right now. So 1 year, maybe $2 million base with another $1 million or $2 million in incentives is probably where he comes in at.
You're still a lot higher on him than I am. Obviously right now. I just I'll have to see how he fits in with this next team that he's on.
Right. Well, it just can't be a worse situation than the Jets, and I have to assume that's going to bring better results. But you saw former Steelers players, I know Marcus Gilbert, Mike Wallace, were saying grass is not always green on the other side, and so many guys have found that out. And I understand Bell wanted to bet on himself and try to cash in, and it was his right to do that. I'm not mad at him for doing that, but I'm sure he's probably at least in the back of his mind in an honest moment saying, man, I should have taken that deal when Pittsburgh offered it to me.
Yeah, the whole guaranteed money talk, yada, yada, yada. But we all know the Steelers' history and the way they pay out these big contracts as long as players stay healthy and keep it 100 between the white lines, if you will, and all like that. Look, here's the biggest gaffe that he's made in all this, because I think had he played on at least the franchise tag in 2018, he'd be about square with the money. But him sitting out that season right now seems to be, because look, he if he would have signed that best deal with the Steelers after turning down the franchise tag in 2018, he'd be in year 3 right now, and he'd be well on his way to putting $45 million in his pocket right now. All right. On the flip side, he's only earned 26, 25, 28 million to date since then. So obviously the biggest gaffe for him was missing that season and not earning anything. So that's got him roughly, $17, $18 million behind the 8 ball, whatever the math works out to be on that. Let's face it, it's he's going to have a great rest of this season for very minimal money in order to cash in past that, and I would bet that he's unable to do that, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. We'll keep you updated. All right, Dave. Mike Tomlin spoke with the media on Tuesday during his annual weekly Tuesday press conference, and while I was not super specific with the injury report, he rarely is leaving the door open, the light on for guys like David DeCastro, Marquise Pouncey, Deontay Johnson. It seems like Pouncey's got a really good shot to play. Deontay Johnson probably in that same camp. DeCastro maybe a little more on the questionable side of things. Is that kind of your read on the situation, Dave?
Yeah, I guess we know better than get a little bit too excited, though, right?
Sure.
Over these things, we've kind of been we think one thing and then turn around and surprise. So we'll see if there's any surprises on the Wednesday injury report when it's released. It did seem more positive about guys like Pouncey and obviously Deontay Johnson to hear Mike Tomlin talk, and then we'll see about DeCastro. I would guess that you could consider that DeCastro would probably be the most questionable of the bunch right now, correct?
Yeah, of the Pouncey, Johnson, DeCastro trio, I'm the least optimistic about DeCastro. He may play, but I think Pouncey, Johnson have a better odds of playing than David DeCastro as we sit here today. And
it did seem fairly positive to hear Tomlin talk about the prospects of having Derek Watt and linebacker, that feels weird to say, linebacker Marcus Allen back for this game as well too. We'll see. The Wednesday injury report will tell us, give us a little bit of insight into all that. Look, Ben's going to be on the injury report on Wednesday. As not practicing, probably Pouncey, probably going to give him some time. Who knows? Hayward, some of these other veteran days out there. We'll see if there's a surprise name. I guess, long story short, I expect probably about 8 or 10 names on the injury report today, and then we'll have to sift through Thursday and Friday. Heck, we might get to a point where maybe the end of the week that only person given the status report maybe will be DeCastro, but I think it'll start off a long list on Wednesday afternoon. Obviously, get whittled down some by the Friday injury report. So I think the best case scenario, if I were to guess right now, kind of the best case scenario would be we get to Friday and we're looking at one player, DeCastro, having a questionable status.
Yeah, and we'll have to see about Watt and Allen. Tomlin said that they're going to be available to practice, and we'll let the quality of that practice be our guide in terms of whether we include them in the development of a plan. But it's good. They're obviously progressing in the right direction. You're right, though. The Wednesday injury report typically has been 10-plus names. T.J. Watt may be on that list for that shoulder injury, and that dude got beat up pretty good against the Eagles trying to shoot some of those A-gaps. So it'll be a long list today. It's kind of tough to gauge, and Thursday, Friday will give us a better indication of who's going to play and who's not going to play Sunday against the Cleveland Browns. Mike Tomlin also talked about, let me try to find some of his quotes from yesterday. A lot of Browns talk. Obviously, one of the big questions that's going to be capturing the attention of national media this week is the Myles Garrett stuff. The first time the Steelers and Browns in terms of Garrett and Steelers playing each other since the whole Mason Rudolph incident last year that got Garrett suspended for the rest of the season. Tomlin, of course, was not taking the bait, really refused to comment on the situation, saying we're not going to focus on the low-hanging fruit and some of those reality TV storylines. So a very typical, focused answer for Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I mean, how else are you going to answer that, right?
Right. And it's the right approach, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to indulge and give that any more attention than it's already been given, and it's been given plenty of attention so far. Tomlin also asked about the Steelers secondary and if he was concerned about the play of this group so far. He said he was not. He said it was a small sample size and to keep watching, and he said he, quote, overall liked the trajectory of the secondary group. So, don't know if we believe him exactly or not. I don't know what your opinion on the Steelers' state of the secondary is coming off the Eagles game, but Tomlin says he's not worried about it.
All right, now what did I say the other day? I said sometimes you got to look at this, especially in the play of the secondary, and sometimes the other team gets paid to make plays as well too. You and I talked about were there enough kind of contested kind of situations in that game. I know you've had a chance to go back and look deeper at the all 22. So have I. Tomlin kind of said what I thought needed to be said there. We talked about our DEFCON rating and where we think this defense is. I still think, and we talked about the big running play. My takeaway coming out of watching more all 22 on this is really where I was the other day. The big run by Miles Sanders was unfortunate. Should have been brought down on the ground. Those are Mike Tomlin put it great. Kind of those are the moments that you learn from, right? That you how much more schematically could you have helped yourself there on kind of a blitz kind of situation there, and you get the draw, and one guy misses, has a key opportunity, Mike Hilton, to make a tackle there and just put that play to bed real quick, and then your couple of guys down the field got to do a better job of getting off blocks to make a tackle to save some grass to defend there. The biggest concern still, and Mike Tomlin was peppered like 3 different times on this during his podcast, was what the heck happened on third downs there. And Mike Tomlin pretty much had the tip of the hat to, hey, they get paid to play as well too. Travis Fulgham, I think if you go back and look at that, at least about 2 or 3 plays there, Fulgham made some fantastic plays. The one on Hilton down the middle of the field, people probably saying, "Oh Christ, what are you doing having Mike Hilton, cover a guy like that down the middle of the field?" Look, sometimes you call the defense, and sometimes the opposing team has the right play on against it, and sometimes it comes down to that player having to make a good play for that play to be successful. That was cover 2. That was cover 2 man. All right. They had the right play, the right route combination called against that, and Mike Hilton was kind of step for step with Fulgham in there. I thought Fulgham made a great contested catch in that situation there. Fast forward to the one over there on the sideline that Mike Tomlin recalled. I didn't remember that right off the top of my head, so immediately after the press conference was over with, I went and pulled that one back up. That was Steven Nelson was draped all over Fulgham at the time, and the kid made a great catch there. Now, were there much more contested catches over that? Fulgham ran a lot of outs, I thought, kind of uncontested in these situations. I don't know what happened on that one over on the, 3rd and something over on the right side, where some sort of inverted coverage, I think, there, right? With the
3rd and 17.
Was that it?
Was that when he ran the corner route to the right sideline?
Right.
I think just cover 3, I think. And
was it one person inverted on that? Was it Hilton that was running way back?
Yeah, I think Sutton bailed. Yeah, they rotate that stuff a lot. Yeah, not uncommon.
I mean, it kind of but that those kind of things, that kind of play can't happen. The other third, they got off to a great start on third downs in this game because the Eagles were 0 for 2, and then the Eagles were 0 for 2 at the final 2 third downs. The problem is they went 10 for 10 on third downs in the middle, and we're just
so they had 10 straight third downs.
They had 10 straight third downs, Alex. And look, it'd be one thing if we were talking about 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 4s, even 3rd and 5s, but a lot of these were 3rd and longers. And that's the most concerning point in my coming out of this. And all right, Mike Tomlin wants the benefit of the doubt here that sometimes the other team gets paid to play. All right, let's give it to him. All right, but only so many times that excuse is going to work. And here we are this week against a good Browns team, a Browns team that's converting well over the 40% mark on third downs coming into this game as well too. There is no surprising rookie this year. I'm sure Mike Tomlin knows all about Jarvis Landry and some guy named Odell Beckham Jr. Those guys aren't gonna sneak up on you there. So I guess long and short of it, all right. Let's take Mike Tomlin for his word, because I think you'll admit, after going back through the all 22, schematically, probably not much you're going to change there. Some guy probably need to do a better job of reading some stuff, maybe contesting a few more of those balls, and maybe not blowing the coverage, in the end zone on one of those there. But I think it gets the benefit of doubt there. And now let's see what happens against the Browns on third downs and every other down on Sunday at Heinz Field.
I think overall that's a fair assessment. The bigger concern that now that I've gone through the all 22 is
where
less.
am I unfair? Go ahead, point that out.
No, I think that all those points were fair. I mean, that throw that Wentz had to Fulgham down the middle for 31 yards against Hilton was a beautiful throw, great catch. I mean, Fulgham definitely played well. There's no question about that. And sometimes those guys are going to make plays, as you said.
That's a tough catch, man, especially for a young kid like you. That's a tough,
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. But the biggest concern, and I saw this for at least 5 plays. I'm going to do a video for this for tomorrow on Steelers Depot. Are some of these communication problems where they don't have either the right answer or they're not communicating stuff. They're struggling with some of these bunched looks and passing things off in the route distribution. They're getting late to being set. They're struggling with some motion. I mean, I have 4 or 5 plays listed where they just don't seem to be on the same page, and that's making life way too easy on quarterbacks. And
let me guess. One of those was well within under a minute left to go in the first half, was it not?
Yeah, I think there were one of them I have, yeah. And then, of course, the Fulgham touchdown, the last touchdown the Eagles had was obviously a bunch set where Nelson and Fitzpatrick didn't communicate correctly and Fulgham gets open and it's an easy pitch and catch. I mean, that one is just unacceptable. But there are multiple examples. Some that didn't even necessarily hurt the team. There was one at the end of the first half where a receiver was wide open. It was actually on the Arcega-Whiteside 37-yard catch. There was a receiver wide open to the left side. Had Wentz saw him, that would have been probably a touchdown. So, and I saw this against Denver too. I think I pointed this out that there's been some too much of the miscommunication, and I don't know again if that's maybe a Devin Bush thing. Probably not. If that's just this team not having enough answers because they are a pretty simple defense that doesn't try to get too complex and throw too much at themselves. So. That, to me, honestly, is the biggest concern right now is some of these basic communication problems that should not be happening when you have the continuity the secondary has. This defense returning so many guys, the secondary returning everybody. This should have been a hit-the-ground running type situation, even knowing you didn't have some of the summer and spring work that you normally have. And so, to me, that's where my number one concern is right now for the secondary.
I would agree with that, yeah, as well. What after going back through the all 22 and focusing a little bit more on Minkah Fitzpatrick, people are just losing their mind right now, and I don't think they should be. Sometimes turnovers will come in bunches. The biggest thing is just all around kind of, not just the turnovers, but you'd like to see. Obviously, maybe another pass defense or two in key situations there. And one of the most concerning things I still think coming out of that game against the Eagles is kind of that shoulder tackle, if you will. You got to wrap up there.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get him on. You got to get him on the ground there. So, what did you see? Is there any reason to be concerned at this point, even after watching the Eagles tape on Minkah Fitzpatrick?
No, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint any one particular play and say Minkah would have made this play last year and he's not making it this year. So I think there is an overstatement about how bad he's playing. I don't think he's playing terribly. As you said, the turnovers hopefully will come. Obviously, you want to see those, and the longer that drought extends, the more concerning it's going to get from that standpoint, because he's at his best when he makes splash plays. He was traded here to make splash plays. He did that immediately when Pittsburgh brought him over last year. I did see one communication issue with him, though, on one of those zombie calls that I think you referenced either on Monday's podcast or Monday's live stream, where I think they were reverting back to old cover 3 rules where the safety would stay single high against that post over combination, but Minkah drove on it and it left the post ultimately open. So there are some popcorn stuff there, but with Minkah specifically, there isn't any one thing where I'm sitting there going, man, Minkah doesn't feel like he's the same guy last year. Again, you want to see those splash plays happen. Hopefully they'll occur. But I'm not hitting the panic button on Minkah specifically. But the secondary as a whole with communication, there is some worry there.
All right.
Let's see. Mike Tomlin also. What else did Mike Tomlin say? A lot of Browns talk yesterday. Didn't have a lot of Steelers-specific type questions. Anything else Tomlin said at this presser that you wanted to touch on, Dave?
Oh, I'm trying to replay it in my head right now. I think he hit on. I think we hit on most of the stuff, right?
Yeah, I think we did. All All right, let's see. What do you want to go to right now? Let me find my notes again. Anything else from the All-22? Since we both of us have gone through the All-22 a good bit now. To me, again, the secondary communication issues was one of the bigger things that stuck out to me. Again, I'll do a video on that for the morning, highlighting I think 5 or 6 plays where there were definitely some breakdowns. But anything on the All-22 that kind of stuck out to you, Dave?
Let's see here. Offensively, yeah, not really. I thought they did a lot more concentrated kind of effort than I thought originally on Ertz. Now, there was a ball or two I think Ertz probably should have caught in there. And also, I think it does kind of feel like they went into that game probably thinking make somebody else kill us other than Ertz, and they almost did, right? What did you see on the on the play that Tuitt basically disrupted and prevented a big play from happening?
Yeah, there was a receiver open on kind of I don't know if it was a double move or just an extension of the play and of the route, but Wentz was not looking for that receiver that was getting open down the left sideline. He was going to throw the crosser over the middle, which may have gotten a big gain, but Tuitt a good play there. I think that was a 3-man rush too, so Tuitt, nice job to get that sack, because that probably saved a big play for the Eagles.
You also saw, and you've seen this now, I think for a couple games now, kind of a shift in kind of blitz number strategy as well too. You've got a great post up on Steelers Depot about the defensive charting numbers now through through the first quarter of the season. What's your few biggest takeaways from that?
Yeah, you've definitely seen a reduction in aggressiveness from week 1 and week 2 against the Giants and Broncos compared to week 3 and week 4 against the Texans and Eagles. Here are the splits. The blitz rate overall, week 1, week 2, was 46.1%. The last 2 games, it's been 29.7%. So you're definitely seeing some normalization, some regression to the mean in those numbers, which was wholly expected. They weren't going to go through an entire season blitzing nearly half the time, rushing 60% of the time. That just was not tenable, sustainable. So no surprise to see those numbers come down.
Any other kind of takeaways from the first quarter charting?
Yeah, a ton of stuff there. They're a nickel 42% of the time. They're in their base defense 32% of the time. Dime has come up to 26%. Now, granted, part of that's from playing with leads and teams having to throw late, so game circumstance certainly dictates the amount of time that you're in your dime defense. Got some really good numbers on the Steelers' run defense. Let me scroll down and find those for you right now. Just how good Tyson Alualu has been, and it's good. Or Lulu, I should say his name correctly with how well he's playing. Did you see this post? Do you know what the number is for Alulu yards per carry whenever he's on the field?
No, I missed that.
Yeah, how many? I won't even tease it. But when Tyson Alualu, I'll get it right one of these days, is on the field, opposing offenses are averaging 0.78 yards per carry. 0.78 yards per carry with 94 on the field.
Let me see how close you are to what the NFL has on net yards over average here. Hold on a minute here.
It may be different, because I am discounting. There was a negative 9-yard net play against the Broncos that was a holding call, and I just discount those. I take those out of the equation for yardage type stuff. So that hurt him, but still. At 0.7.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it made me. I've been forgetting to check these numbers here. According to the league, Tyson Alualu average rush with player on the field 0.57 yards.
Okay, I was at 0.55 if you include the one -9 net play that was a 4-yard gain that was called back by a hold. I discount those whenever I do this stuff, because I don't think you get credit for the -9 net on that. But if you include that, then it'd be the same number.
Average rush without player on the field 3.36 yards per carry. So let's see here. Rushing differential at 2.7. How many running plays has he been on the field for? Do you have that?
I don't have that. It was around 37, I think, off the top of my head, somewhere around there. 30 something.
Here's an interesting fact here too. Average pass with player on the field 6.51 is the third highest. He must not be on obviously that can get skewed depending on the number of plays. If you're on a play, if you're not playing many snaps and you get one big play against you, then that can skew your numbers there. 6.51 yards per pass play when Alualu is on the field. Average pass play without the player on the field, though, is 5.87.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a correlation too much there or not.
We'll have to look in the snap total on that. So that's good info on your end there for sure, because he has played quite a bit of run snaps, obviously.
For sure. And then just for the Steelers' base defense as a whole, opposing offenses are gaining just 1.4 yards per carry, and the Steelers' base 3.4. The Steelers actually have more plays that have resulted in no gain or a loss, 13 of them, than offenses have had successful runs, just 10 successful runs out of 36 when the Steelers are in their base 3-4. So you cannot run on this team when they're playing their 3-4 defense.
They're going to get a good test against a running game, a good running game on Sunday against the Cleveland Browns. So, look, you obviously have a bad taste in your mouth coming off that game against the Eagles, and they settled down. They were good on both sides of it, right? As we talked about the other day. But before the Miles Sanders 70-something yard run, and after it, they were fantastic. But all it takes is one home run, and it really you can't just totally throw that out the window, right? Because especially when it ends up in the end zone for a touchdown, it's easier to swallow, I think, if you give up those kind of big plays, or maybe won a game like that, and you have grass to defend after it's over with, but they didn't on that one. So I'm not, you give up a play like that, I'm not worried. I think if it's just one of those one-off things, like, look, they had that against Seattle in week 2 last year, right? You kind of have those hiccups like that. Now let's not have any more of them.
Yeah, absolutely. But I trust Mike Hilton to make that tackle more often than not. Some other numbers from our charting: Stephon Tuitt's on a career high for pressure rate, which he's even surpassing last year's numbers before he got hurt, which I did not expect. But Dupree, TJ Watt have great pressure numbers and great pressure rates. They're dropping into coverage 5 and 6% of the time. And for the secondary with quarterbacks targeting, aside from Cam Sutton, because they only have him down for one target, Mike Hilton has the best quarterback rating against the lowest quarterback rating against at 42.8. So I know there is this thought that the guy can't cover, but statistically, it's a small sample size. I understand that. He's got the best number of the secondary.
We also got new kind of expert advanced analytics guy writing for the site now. Brad Congelio put his first article up the other day. They're excited to have him. He's really good. Look, you know how I am with these advanced metrics and stats and all like that. And I have not yet figured out how to use that NFL FastR program that's running around out there. Fantastic, the charts and the data that people can pull off of that. Well, Brad knows how to do that kind of stuff. So we're excited to have him on. He's got a great article up already yesterday examining the Steelers' 2020 defense using adjusted, kind of a new metric that Brad created, adjusted quarterback hits over average. So based on the data that he has right now, and it's not surprising, but he just wanted to see how much, how good this defense is when it comes to quarterback hits and the effectiveness and yada yada. And he looks at the quality of the offensive line. It's kind of married in some PFF offensive line scores on top of it there. This, as advertised, this front pass rush is good so far for the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're on pace for 80 sacks. They're at 20 right now. I believe that's still the NFL lead. So a really good post from Brad. Nice to have that analytical approach and mentality and content, because I think that's really valuable. So hopefully he's able to do some more stuff for us over the season.
Yeah, we were glad to have him on. Should be a post or two, maybe a week from him moving forward here, if time works out in his favor. So glad to have him on working in kind of the advanced stats realm of Steelers Depot.
Dave, I do want to go back to the All-22 in a moment, but before we do that, we should break here and talk to our buddy Scott Petrak. He writes for the Chronicle Telegram. The Medina Gazette covers the Cleveland Browns.
Medina.
Medina? Is it Medina? I thought you said Medina earlier. I looked it up earlier.
Medina. Because he always used to correct me on that. I was the one that said it wrong forever.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll get it right for Week 17. I'll tell you that. Let's put it that way. All right, let's talk to our buddy Scott and hear what he has to say about the Cleveland Browns.
Okay, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Wednesday, and that means we have a beat writer who covers the Pittsburgh Steelers opposition on the show, and it is Browns week, so everybody should be acting accordingly right now. And with that, we welcome back to the show a good friend of the show, been on several times now, a real favorite of a lot of our listeners out there. I'm, of course, talking about Scott Petrak. He is the Browns beat writer for the Chronicle Telegram and Medina Gazette. He is a proud graduate of Northwestern University. He's a husband, a stepdad, an avid golfer who has golfed all over the United States. He says he needs to hit the range to get down to a single-digit handicap. On top of that, make sure you're checking out Scott on the Twitter machine at Scott Petrak. That's Scott, Petrak. Tell him you heard him on the podcast. I know he likes to hear from several Steelers fans after he gets on the show here. Make sure you get on brownzone.com, check out his work. He's got, I think, a podcast as well, too. Oh, what a long introduction. Scott, I understand you were chasing the white ball around yesterday, so we hope we did not disturb you from that, but welcome back to the Terrible Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, we took one day off, and now we're back in the Steelers week, so good to talk some football.
Absolutely, and let's start with that. Look, I mean, a lot to be excited about. I was on a Browns podcast yesterday, and those guys were pretty hyped, and with good reason. The Browns sitting here at 4-1, and heck, I'm not even sure Alex was born the last time the Browns entered. Had a 4-1 record there. At this time of the season here. So let's start with this. 30,000 overview of where you thought this team would be after 5 weeks of the season, where they are, and kind of what all has transpired in these first 5 weeks.
Sure. If you just go from a purely record standpoint, I would have thought that they would be, 2-3 or 3-2. The schedule wasn't that hard out of the gate. I mean, they played the Ravens week 1, so that was tough. But then they had Washington and Cincinnati. But then it was Dallas and Indianapolis. And I know Dallas is struggling, but they have a big-time offense, and Dak threw for 500. And the Browns still won that game, and they won pretty easily. The Cowboys made a run in the fourth quarter, but the Browns were up big and then held them off. And then Indy's a pretty good team. And so that's my point is I think the last 2 weeks were good measuring sticks for the progress of this team, and they won them both. And I think if you take an even step further back, that there's just so many good things happening with the Browns. It's not even all about 4-1. It's the fact that Coach Kevin Stefanski, in his first time as a head coach, certainly seems to know what he's doing and has a calming influence, and he's really prepared and detail-oriented and organized, and all that seems to be showing up on the field with how the operation's going and with the lack of penalties. And then he's a good play caller. And he commits to the run, and he doesn't get away from the run, and he marries the play-action passing game with the run game. And the Browns have a lot of talent. And we talked about this last year. They have talent, and that's why it was so disappointing when they were so bad last year, is because there's talent there. And I think we're finally starting to see that talent show up, whether it's Odell Beckham Jr., Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Myles Garrett is having a huge year.
When you look at the 2020 Browns, obviously we had you on right before the start of the season there to kind of preview this year's team and all. Where are the Browns at this point better than maybe what you thought they would be, and where are they worse than maybe you thought they would be at this time of the year?
That's a good question. I would say the run game is been even better than I thought it would be, even though I thought it was going to be good. I mean, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are, arguably top 10 backs in the league. But I don't know if I expected the Browns to be averaging, it was 204 yards going into last week, so it dropped a bit, but it's probably still 175 if I'm doing my numbers right. That's a bunch of of running yards a game. The offensive line, we knew it was going to be better because the Browns signed Jack Conklin and they drafted Jedrick Wills, number 10. But I don't know if I wasn't sure how Wills would play early in the year because no preseason. He was making the move from right tackle to left tackle, and he hasn't been perfect, but he's been pretty good. And the line as a whole has been really, really good. So I would say those two areas, and, and Myles Garrett, I'm going to keep bringing him up because as good as we all know he is and as talented we all know he is, he's been even better, and he's playing like a defensive player of the year. So those areas, I think, have been exceeded expectations. The defense as a whole, we knew was the back seven of the defense. We knew was going to be iffy, and it has been iffy. And then, Baker, he hasn't been great, but he's been fine. I thought he said he played his worst game of the season against the Colts, and he's probably right. He threw 2 picks in the second half. Could have thrown another one in the first half. Got bailed out by his receivers on some contested catches. So I don't think he's played worse than I expected. But, if you look at this 4-1 team and all the good things going on, I would say the back seven of the defense and Baker have just been about average.
All right. Before I turn it over to Alex here, nobody knows, kind of this team pre first injury report, and that'll be out later today on Wednesday. What can we expect this injury report to look like for the Browns Wednesday afternoon? Obviously, Wyatt Teller is going to be a huge name on that list. What's the rest of it going to look like?
Well, yeah, Wyatt Teller I expect him not to play this week. They label him week to week, and the Browns are pretty conservative when they talk about injuries. So for them to already say week to week means he's likely not going to play. So that's a loss because he's been playing at really high levels. Pro Football Focus's top guard heading into week 5. But Chris Hubbard, you guys know Chris Hubbard,
right?
Stepped in and did pretty well against the Colts and has become that 6th lineman. He filled in at right tackle in week 2 for Jack Conklin and played well. Stepped in for Teller at right guard last week. He said he'd never played right guard in a game before, in a regular season game. Had only gotten 1 rep there the week before in practice and held his own. So I think he'll be your right guard against, on Sunday. The big injury to watch is Baker took a couple of shots in the fourth quarter of that Colts game. And he got up the one time and kind of his right arm hanging down and felt like he wasn't even feeling in it, kind of trying to flex that hand out. And the Browns called it ribs, and he had x-rays, and they were negative. So I'm anxious to get out there and watch the little bit of practice we can and see if, how he's throwing the ball. Is he limited at all? I fully expect him to play. I just want to see if the ribs are affecting him at all. And then outside of that, nothing huge. Larry Ogunjobi on the D-line didn't play last week. They're hoping he can play this week. They have a little banged up at safety. Ronnie Harrison played for Carl Joseph last week and then suffered a concussion after he had a pick 6. So he was in protocol Monday. You know how concussions work.
Right.
We just don't know if he'll be able to come back this week. And then their hope can play with the hamstring that kept him out against the Colts because those are their 2 options at strong safety.
Scott, you mentioned Kevin Stefanski leading this team to a 4-1 start. Now that you've gotten to watch him work some more and interact with him some more during the weeks, I'm sure, just what kind of head coach is Kevin Stefanski? What kind of personality is unique to him, and how is he different than, say, Freddie Kitchens or the laundry list of coaches in seasons past for Cleveland?
Sure. It's that second part first. It's night and day, just personality-wise and style. With Freddie Kitchens specifically. And Freddie was a big personality. We all know he wore that Pittsburgh started a T-shirt, right? Wasn't afraid of a little controversy. That's not Stefanski. Stefanski doesn't give a whole lot of great quotes, plays things close to the vest. He went to Penn, super smart, always feels in control of pretty much everything, right? In control of the interviews. He's not going to say something that he doesn't want to say. And not to pile on Freddie, but Freddie would, I think, get carried away and say stuff that he knew he shouldn't say, and then he'd say it and regret it. And we haven't had that experience with Stefanski at all. So that's part of it. Like I said, super smart, calm. But my overall sense is just this calming presence. And you started to see that during the start of the pandemic when the Browns had to, everybody did, but when the Browns were going through their virtual offseason program, this is a guy who's never been a head coach before. And he handled that. And it was a no excuses philosophy. And it was, we're still going to install our offense. It's a brand new offense, brand new defense. he tried to figure out a way to get some chemistry going with this team without having been in person. But all those things. And then you watch him, and the play calling, the Browns have been burned by having coaches try to call plays, and they're young coaches and first-time coaches. And, Pat Shermer did it, and Freddie did it. And, Hugh Jackson wasn't a first-time coach, but he did it. And it's just always been an issue. Like, okay, you're calling the plays, but you're distracted, and you're missing out on other things and timeouts and game management. And that just hasn't been an issue. He's just on top of things. And I think he's done a really good job as a play caller. He's found a way to introduce Odell Beckham Jr., get him involved early in games, which is a huge help because Odell likes to get involved early. We saw him go nuts in that Cowboys game with the 3 touchdowns and the long end around for a touchdown that sealed the game. So Stefanski's done a great job overall, and I think part of that is the staff he put together, and I'll single out line coach Bill Callahan. We all know he's one of the best in the business, and for Stefanski to get him, and Callahan plays such a huge role in the run game and how they're going to block it up and which plays they're going to run. And, he took this group, which is hugely important, and Baker didn't trust last year's offensive line, and now he does, and he's working with Jedrick Wills, and he helped Wyatt Teller get better. So hiring Callahan was a huge move for Stefanski, and then he relies on him and the rest of the coaches, and I don't see a lot of ego in Stefanski, and when you talk to people knowing, they say the same thing. So just a really, really pleasant surprise for a guy who's never done it and is only 38 years old.
That was going to be my next question about Callahan, but I think he answered it well. Definitely something Steeler fans know with the impact Mike Munchak had whenever he was a Steeler. So I'll ask about the run game and what that division of labor looks like without Nick Chubb. I assume they hope and expect Chubb to return at some point this season, but until then, and for Sunday's game, it's Kareem Hunt. And tell us the Dearness Johnson story. I don't know much about that guy, but he seemed to play well when given the opportunity.
Sure. It's tough to completely judge how the running game is going to be without Chubb, just because they played a really good Colts run defense last week, and they still managed to run for, I want to say, 132, but it was only 3.8 carries, which is way down from what the Browns had been averaging. And when I went back and watched the game, like when you're watching it live, it felt like, man, they're just not able to run the ball. They weren't able to establish anything like they had in the first 4 weeks. And they asked Baker to throw more because the Colts were taking away the run game. So Baker threw 22 times in the first half, I think. And that was more than he had thrown it, in some games, right? He's thrown it 22 or 23 times in a couple of games. So, Stefanski was able to adjust and say, okay, we're going to try to beat you a different way. But when I went back and watched it, the run game, it had, it would get 4 yards and 5 yards. It just didn't have the breakaway runs that Chubb we'd been so used to watching Chubb get, right? And Hunt too in those first few games. That's what the Colts did a good job taking away. But they're still able to have success pretty routinely, I think. And then at the end, they needed to run out the clock, and they got a 10-yard run and a 28-yard run. And they killed all but the last 21 seconds of the game to cement that win over the Colts. So I think they'll still be able to run the ball with Hunt as the number one. Now, he's still kind of dealing with a groin injury a little bit, which is why we saw Dearness Johnson finish the game against the Colts and have that he had a 28-yard carry on 3rd and 9 that was huge right before the 2-minute warning. If not, the Colts would have had a chance to come back and win that game. So, obviously you miss a guy of Nick Chubb's caliber, right? He might be the best player on this team. But when you have a guy like Kareem Hunt coming in to replace him, it's not a huge drop-off. Now, there's drop-off from Hunt to Dearness Johnson, right, as your number 2. There's no doubt about that. But Johnson's been pretty effective in the 2 games he's played. And he's a good story. He was trying to make it in the league, and he wasn't having a lot of success, and he wound up being on a fishing boat in Key West. Like, he was one of those guys, and they would go and they would catch fish and sell them some of all those restaurants right there, if you've ever been to Key West, when you come back in. So he was doing that, just trying to kind of waiting for an opportunity, and then the AAF started, and he got a shot there, and that's what kind of opened the eyes of the Browns, and they gave him a shot, and he came in and really impressed last year and won a roster spot. Didn't play a bunch, played a lot on special teams, and was good on special teams. And then this year he won the competition for the third spot, beating out Dontrell Hilliard. And now he's having some kind of an impact. And he's not he's not the biggest guy, he's not the fastest guy, but he's good enough. And I think we've seen the last 2 weeks that he can be effective, but he's not Kareem Hunt. But I think with the scheme and with the O-line, the Browns are still going to be able to run the ball against most teams. I don't know if that means Pittsburgh too, but against most teams, the Browns are going to be able to run the ball.
How fungible do you see the running back position being in the NFL? It's one of my favorite one of my favorite proclamations I think over the last several years is just you look around the league and the fungibility of how interchangeable some of these backs are. Just fourth, fifth, sixth round undrafted guys come in and handle. But then you look at the Browns situation where no doubt about it, the pedigree you can see it in a guy like Chubb. You can see it in a guy like Kareem Hunt. But where do you weigh in on kind of the fungibility at the running back position across the NFL?
Yeah, that's a good one. Here's what I think. That if you're a team that is a pass-first team, right, and I think you can probably throw the Chiefs into that mix, and you can throw the Steelers with Ben into that mix, then it doesn't really matter who that running back is. There's plenty of guys that can come in and get 15 to 18 carries, and if defenses are spread out trying to cover three wides, they can have some success. But if you're a team that says, hey, we're going to run it 35 times and our wide zone is going to be the basis for everything and play action is going to be built off of that, and I think of Tennessee and I think of San Francisco, even though they don't have a big time back, Mostert's who Mostert is, but they still have success with him. But I think in those kind of examples, and the Browns are clearly trying to be that. And I think the Ravens are doing that too, right? We know the Ravens ran the ball at an incredible level last year. Then I think it does help to have those big name guys that you feel like are difference makers. And that's how the Browns feel about Chubb, and that's how they feel about Hunt. And I think that's how the Ravens feel about Ingram. And then they go ahead, draft Dobbins early. The question for me with the Browns is, are they going to pay Nick Chubb? And he's only in his third year, so the extension talks can begin after this season. He was a second-round pick, so he's only on a 4-year rookie deal. And we 2-year, $13.25, I want to say, extension, which is a ton of money to pay a second back. It's not a lot of money to pay a first back. So, I think you could argue with the Browns have the analytics front office that I'm sure on some spreadsheet it says do not pay $20 million to the running back position. And if you're already paying Kareem Hunt 6 and Nick Chubb's going to get 12 or 14 because he's that good of a player, I think at some point the Browns are going to have a decision to make, and maybe they just string it out. Maybe they have Nick, Chubb play that fourth year on the cheap rookie deal. And maybe they franchise him once and try to use him up as much as they can before letting him go and maybe drafting somebody else. But those are decisions to be made down the road. But it's a really interesting conversation, especially when you talk about the kind of backs the Browns have and the kind of offense they want to run.
I think on top of that too, when you look at the salary cap and the floor and how teams have to spend, cash up to the, up to the floor too, that puts teams in some situations sometimes, and most notably the Browns over the years, where they almost have to overpay some guys on at some positions on some deals because they have to spend the money. So that's an interesting thing to watch moving forward here. Look, it's going to be a lot of Myles Garrett talk the rest of this week, going back to Helmet Gate and all like that. Do you expect that to kind of pick up starting, really today? And how do you expect him and the rest of the Browns to kind of handle that?
Yeah, I'm sure it'll pick up, and I think you're right. I think starting today it picks up. We usually don't talk to Myles until Fridays, so it might not get the run early in the week that it normally would. But I think we're going to ask every player we talk to on Zoom about it because it's such a big story, right? I mean, that's the lasting image of the 2019 season. And Myles has tried to put it behind him. It'll be interesting to see how he answers questions about it this week. He can say, it's, it doesn't mean more, and he's trying to keep his focus on the game and all that. It'd be hard to believe that it's not in the back of his head or in the front of his head.
Similar thought is,
and, obviously part of his story that he's trying to move past. He says, I think he's trying to move past it. I know he's talked about, he'd be willing to talk to Mason Rudolph, and, he doesn't want to be defined by that, 35 seconds, whatever it was, on that Thursday night. But we know it'll stick with him. We know this is the first time Browns Steelers are playing with Miles since then. It'll be a big storyline. And then the other fact of the matter is that the Steelers have to figure out a way to block him, because he's been dominant this year. He's got 6 sacks. He's in the backfield a bunch. He's drawing double and triple teams. And I think the difference in Myles Garrett this year to years past, where he always had all this talent, this, incredible talent that makes you the number 1 draft pick. But we've seen him string together game-changing plays, and he's done it 4 weeks in a row. I mean, he had 3 strips. And then last week, he got in the backfield and forced Rivers to throw the ball away, and his intentional grounding for a safety. And that wound up being a huge play in the game. So those 2 points wound up being huge. So he's made a game-changing play 4 straight weeks, and there's not a lot of defensive players in the league that do that.
He's just a monster, I tell you. Look, there's no sense really talking about it. Look, Larry Ogunjobi, Steelers fans should know about him, and Sheldon Richardson and Myles Garrett. Talk about that linebacking crew, though, man. A lot of questions about that group. B.J. Goodson and Mac Wilson. I wasn't huge on Mac Wilson coming out. I thought he was kind of a little bit overrated there. Is that the weakest part of this defense right now? Is that second level linebacker group? I mean, they were fools to let Joe Schobert walk away, but that's just me.
Yeah. It's a toss-up between the linebacking group and the safeties. Andrew Sendejo, who's playing free safety because Grant Delpit, the second-round rookie, tore his Achilles and is done for the year. Sendejo is struggling. He's one of those guys that I think the Browns signed him for his veteran leadership. They signed him to be the 3rd safety. They're going to play some 3 safety packages. And all of a sudden, he's playing 100% of the snaps because Delpit's not out, not able to play. And you see him give up big plays. And he's a little out of control back there, in my opinion. The coaches play him a bunch because he's smart and he knows how to get guys lined up and he communicates. And I know coaches appreciate that, right? It's not the first time we've seen a guy play and you wonder, why is he playing? And it's because the coaches know all the little things he does. But he gives up plays. At least he has in these first 5 games. And so anyway, safety and linebacker are the 2 spots. I think actually the Browns have done a decent job kind of piecing together their linebacking play, their linebacking core through these first 5 games, because Mac Wilson was hurt early in the year. He's still coming back from a knee. So he's only playing on base defense. They got Malcolm Smith. They signed him, the veteran that won the Super Bowl MVP with the Seahawks. And he's actually been a pleasant surprise covering running backs. He's part of that nickel package. Goodson's fine. Sione Takitaki was a 3rd-round pick a year ago. I think he's limited, and you really only see him play in the base defense. So they're using like 4 or 5 different guys, and they have rookie Jacob Phillips who's fighting a knee injury too. They're just kind of rotating these guys and trying to figure out the perfect spot to use them where they're not exposed, right? Where their worst qualities aren't exposed. And they've actually done a decent job of that, but it's certainly not a strength of the team. They want Mac Wilson to be back 100% because he runs as well as any of those linebackers. But yeah, the back 7 is vulnerable, although, Greedy Williams is now on IR with a shoulder. He's got a nerve injury shoulder. He hasn't played all year at corner, but Terrence Mitchell's done a really nice job. So on the outside with Ward and Mitchell, they've done well. Kevin Johnson is back healthy as a nickel. So those 3 top corners are pretty good. It's just when you get to the safety and they've had some injuries there, teams have been able to throw the ball against them. There's no doubt about that.
The Steelers have gotten big contributions from their rookie class already with Chase Claypool, Kevin Dotson, who may start against the Browns on Sunday. I know Wills has played well, as you said, Scott, but how is the rest of the rookie class done? I know Delpit's been hurt. I think Elliott got dinged up last week, but I've seen Harrison Bryant make an impact. Peoples-Jones gotten some work in the return game. Who are some other rookies that may have impressed you?
Yeah, that's a good question. They haven't gotten a ton, I mean, like we talked about, Wills is playing every snap at left tackle. Showed some toughness. They thought he might have broken his leg in the opener. It wound up being a bruise, so that was a good break. I would say Harrison Bryant is probably the number 2 rookie to have an impact. He passed. I mean, Njoku got hurt, but even before he got hurt, Bryant had kind of won that number 2 tight end job in training camp behind Austin Hooper, and he's playing a bunch. And for a guy that doesn't look that big, I think he's only 245 maybe, has an impact as a run blocker, which you know how it works. If you're going to run wide, your tight ends need to be able to block, and he's been doing a good job at that. So I've been impressed with him.
He surprised me with them T-Rex arms.
Yeah, right. So I've been impressed with him. But you're right. I mean, the loss of Delpit has been huge. You know, they had the 2 third-rounders, Phillips and Elliott. Elliott, I thought was going to start last week because Ogunjobi was out, and instead he only played 9 snaps. Vincent Taylor got more of them, and he's just kind of a journeyman D-tackle. So they say good things about Elliott, but obviously they're not completely comfortable with him stepping in there right now in a full-time role. Phillips has been banged up with the knee that he hurt in the opener. So there hasn't been a huge impact. Peoples-Jones was healthy and active until JoJo Natson got hurt, and now he's playing. He's a returner, and he's splitting time as a third receiver. Hasn't looked as explosive in the return game as I thought he would. Feels like it takes him kind of a while to restart. You know, if he gets ahead of steam going, he's fine, but once you make him go sideways, it takes a little bit to get going again. I don't know if that's ideal for, your returner. So just not a huge amount of impact except for your left tackle. And I just think that kind of speaks to the talent that was here when GM Andrew Berry took over.
And my last question for you, Scott, and then I'll turn things back over to Dave. Just where is the state of Browns Nation right now? Are they believers? Is there a cautious optimism given that we've been in this scenario before in seasons past where things look like this might be the year and it doesn't turn out that way? How are Browns fans thinking about the season, and do they think they can actually win the North?
Yeah, cautious optimism is probably a good way to put it. It's such a weird year because of COVID that, you're not out and about as much. You don't, the Browns only have 12,000 people at games now. It was 6,000 the first 2 weeks and then 12,000 last week. So you don't get the full impact, that we would have gotten in the past. But, we all read Twitter, right? And we listen to the radio and we, I got my buddy's text message chain. And if you're on that, it's still a sense of, show it to me. And there's so many scars that have built up that, I'm covering that Cowboys game and my buddies are texting me and they're like, they can still lose this. And they're up like 30, right? That's the philosophy. And then they come back and the Cowboys make a run at it. And it kind of like feels like, see, I told you. So I do think there's that sense here, but it's hard to argue with 4-1. I do think there's a sense of belief in this team in general. I think there are some still questions about Baker by some fans. And until you feel 100% confident in your quarterback, I think you're afraid to buy in completely. But obviously everybody's excited. As far as the win in the North, this just might be me. It feels a bit early to go there for me. I know that this game is for first place, and if the Browns win, they'll be at least tied with the Ravens for first place. Assuming the Ravens win. But I don't know. I guess the point is the Ravens have had so much success historically, and so have the Steelers. That again, the Browns are going to need to show me, and I think show the town that they can beat these teams and that they deserve to be in that discussion. And a win this week would go such a long way. But I think heading into this week, I still feel like the Browns are the third team. Now, maybe that's good enough to go to the playoffs, right? Because I think the Browns' schedule's easy, and even if they get swept by the Steelers and the Ravens, they could still go 10-6. But until they beat the Steelers and or Ravens, I think there will be that question.
Scott, we could keep you on another half hour, but you got to get going on the Zoom machine here pretty soon. I'm pretty sure about that. So with that, shoot us straight here. The Browns have only won once at Heinz Field since Heinz Field opened. They have never beaten a Mike Tomlin coach team at Heinz Field. They play Sunday at Heinz Field. This is a better Browns team than what we've seen in previous years. What's going to happen on Sunday? Give us a score prediction if you do not mind, sir.
Yeah, you know what, guys? It's a little early for me to make the full prediction. I'm just watching your game against the Eagles right now, seeing if how vulnerable you guys are on defense. I know you gave up, the Steelers gave up. I think that's encouraging for the Browns. My gut on a Wednesday, without seeing how Baker's doing and talking to the guys, is that I'll take the Steelers to win. Again, just because it's new for the Browns and new for this organization. But, not having the full stadium, I think, helps the Browns. I feel like the Browns can score points on anyone, but I think they're going to go up a ton of points. I think that's how it's going to be all year, is the Browns are going to have to score whatever number it is. Last week, I thought it was going to have to be 27 to win the game. And that proved to be pretty close. This week, with that offense the Browns are playing, they might need 31 or 34. And so that's a question in my mind. Can they put up those kind of numbers against the Steelers defense? And my guess is no, but I'm not ready to commit to that yet.
I got you. Well, Scott, as always, we're glad to have you on. I'm sure you're going to hear from some of our Twitter followers here. You're a big hit. We appreciate all the time you give to us. We know you got to get running on the Zoom machine here, so we'll catch up with you several more weeks from now to talk about Browns Steelers 2. And with that, thanks for being back on the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.
Thanks, Scott.
Sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Again, our special thanks to Scott Petrak. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at Scott Petrak. He again writes for the Chronicle, Telegram, and Medina Gazette. And Dave, always good to have Scott on the show.
Absolutely, one of the great ones to have on for sure. So definitely glad to have him back on. Make sure people reach out to him as well. He's a good follow. Certainly knows his stuff when it comes to comes to the Browns and all like that. So good information as usual, and we could have him on for an hour.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know he had to get away with some Browns Zoom-related stuff for his beat, but again, our special thanks to Scott, and be sure to reach out to him on Twitter and let him know you heard him on the podcast. All right, Dave, I want to go back to the All-22, and again, I know the Steelers secondary certainly did not have a banner game against the Cleveland Browns, but I got to give Joe Hayden credit, and I mentioned this on Monday's show. I think it's pretty obvious. I think maybe even Darius Butler did a breakdown of it, but that breakup he had on that 3rd and 5 to Fulgham, that is play of the game stuff right there, and I think it goes back to Joe Hayden's really high football IQ, because the Eagles ran that same concept in the first half of that game. Didn't throw it to Hayden, threw it to Zach Ertz for a completion, but I think Hayden knew that was coming on that 3rd and 5, and so the mental toughness after kind of a tough game for Hayden, tough game for the secondary overall to make that play late, honestly probably preserved the win on that one.
Absolutely, it was a huge play in that game, and that was the third down, right?
Yeah, the 3rd and 5 late in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Yeah, so kudos to Joe Hayden for making that play late. So if there's any kind of silver lining, any sort of upside, positive things to talk about with the secondary, I think that play is the play to circle. Overall, the run defense, aside from that Miles Sanders long touchdown, was excellent. The pass rush, I think overall they're doing a better job of keeping contained in the pocket. I think you're facing some of these mobile quarterbacks. You'll see another one Sunday against Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. I'm seeing a better job of really keeping a lid on the pocket and keeping the quarterback in the pocket. Wentz really didn't scramble too much. If I remember correctly, Sunday, he was pretty much kept confined between the tackles, and that didn't allow him to extend the play and to make some plays with his legs that he's certainly capable of making. So that was positive to see.
Yep, absolutely. And look, I think one of the things still when you look at this Browns team, coming up this weekend, I think still one of the things is you got to keep Baker inside the pocket.
Yeah, they had an issue last year where they couldn't do that, I think, and that cost them to lose one of those games. So that's going to be a test when you face Baker. You're facing next quarterbacks you're facing are Baker Mayfield, Ryan Tannehill, who's certainly mobile, and Lamar Jackson. So you're going to face some really athletic quarterbacks, and being able to have good rush lane integrity it will be critical to winning these games. And it starts Sunday against Baker Mayfield. How did you think Kevin Dotson did switching over to the offense? I was impressed with, again, coming off the bench to face that defensive line. I really like Dotson's play.
I thought he represented himself really, really well. I really do. I think he's a really impressive kid. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him based on – look, that's no small task, Fletcher Cox, right? And I thought he really played well.
His hand fighting, to me, is one of my favorite things I've seen so far. I mean, this guy, even if he punches wrong initially or someone gets into his chest, his ability to re-punch, shoot his hands again, and just always fighting, always working. And it's a tough task, not only against Fletcher Cox, but Malik Jackson is certainly an accomplished defensive lineman who has led the team in quarterback hits coming into that game. And overall, those guys were slowed down enough. And still in that 3-point stance, though. Still got his hand on the ground every single snap. So we'll see maybe if he gets out of that, maybe that'll happen this year. Maybe they just kind of punt and wait till next year to get him changing his stance up a little bit.
And I think with him too, Alex, obviously we'll see what's going to happen with DeCastro. I think you should have enough confidence maybe in him right now where in no way, shape, or form. Look, if DeCastro's healthy, he'll play, and this is kind of a silliness, But I mean, if there's any doubt in your mind that maybe a week might help David DeCastro, you got to give it to him, especially now. You don't have a bye week here. Let David DeCastro get healthy. If he's not 100% kind of thing. So once again, we'll find out when the Wednesday injury report comes out. I would expect David DeCastro obviously to be on there. If he doesn't practice, then you're really calling into question whether or not he's going to play. I would think and hope that David DeCastro would have to be at least limited. But look, a couple of videos that you put up there, him and the way he stomps them feet and kind of a dancing bear, if you will, and pass protection. Couple real nice kind of folding some people in like lawn chairs in that game as well too. So, and to come off the bench and do that as a rookie,
right.
I think that's one of the biggest things too.
Yeah, I think that is honestly the most impressive part, to come off the bench, because that means that guy was prepared and ready. He wasn't sitting back saying, well, I'm not starting this week. Because it's easy if you're a rookie saying you're starting, okay, I got to focus in. But if you're off the bench thinking, I probably won't play this week. But to have that same preparation, that still same readiness is the most impressive thing. The only thing I'll knock Kevin Dotson on, just one thing, no kneel down blocks at the end. I was disappointed. He had 2 chances. He didn't do the banner kneel down block. So I want him to bring that one back. Vance McDonald, speaking of run blocking, McDonald was an asset in the run game for sure. He's really getting after it and just one of those team first guys. And then we talked about that extensively last week. But a guy that is just willing to do the dirty and gritty work and almost feels like another offensive lineman out there because this dude's blocking really well.
Absolutely. He's really picked it up, that's for sure.
Yep. I think that was about everything I had for the All-22. Any other final coaches film comments you want to make that maybe I didn't address yet, Dave?
No, there's still more I want to get to. I will obviously before Friday. We'll get a little bit more into also on breaking down the Browns a little bit more in depth as well too. So definitely some stuff I still want to look at on film. I haven't gotten everything I want done yet. Out of that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll talk about that some more on Friday, and of course talk about the Cleveland Browns. Chase Claypool, named, of course, expectedly so, AFC Offensive Player of the Week with that 4 touchdown performance. So kudos to Chase Claypool for that, and the guy that's certainly getting some more fame and recognition. He was on the Pat McAfee show, on the Rich Eisen show, so just handling life as being that maybe now known name as an NFL player is probably something he's adjusting to, and he admitted that. He's saying he's getting attention now, and hopefully he's able to stay on the straight and narrow, but based on what I knew about Chase Claypool, he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders. All right, Dave.
Go ahead.
What's that? I think that's everything I had in terms of news. Or any other pieces of news, any other information that we should add in here? Tom's got his rookie report up on the site. Josh Carney has a missed tackles report, so you guys should definitely check those articles out. How'd you like Tuesday Night Football last night? How did that strike you?
Boy, that Derrick Henry. I don't think we learned anything new about him, but it just goes to show how. Look, kudos to the Titans, right? I mean, they beat a good team.
Yeah, for sure, and
with a lot of possible distractions.
Yeah, it does rub me the wrong way, this whole us against the world mentality. They criticize the Titans for handling COVID. It's like, you can't do that underdog story with that kind of stuff. That's self-inflicted, I think. That kind of annoyed me.
Yeah, I can see that. But I mean, look, they did handle it. They did handle it well,
Yeah, I mean, they certainly bounced back on it already for this game under very unusual circumstances. Last Steelers note, by the way, Steelers did protect 4 players in the practice squad yesterday, the same 4 that they did a week before with Henry Mondeau, Jay Elliott, Deion Kane, and Wendell Smallwood. So Trey Edmonds is, I guess, back on the practice squad now too, isn't he?
Yeah, he reverted according to the report on Monday there. So that's where he's at.
All right, there's the train going by. Sorry about that. It's probably louder because of this whole headset situation. All right, Dave, anything else you want to talk about, or you can get to some reader emails and begin closing out today's show?
All right, let's see here. Let's start with Steelers 17872. I have a question regarding practice squad players, and if you and Alex covered this topic in a previous podcast, I must have missed it. My question is, are the weekly protected players paid more than the unprotected? I ask this because it would seem that when practice squad players are protected, it is essentially preventing them from potentially earning more by being signed to another team's active roster. No, they're not paid more. Look, you're paid by your experience level. There's the two levels on that. What is it? Players with four or more accrued years are paid a little bit. Like
the vet exception.
Yeah. Paid a little bit more, but they don't get paid even more than more if they are protected. It's just one of the things that the NFL has put in there to kind of help with this whole COVID situation. I think it will be interesting though to see if the NFL keeps this past this whole COVID thing. You would think the NFLPA would be for it, right? More players with the ability to have jobs and all kind of thing like that. But the whole protected thing is to keep teams from being robbed as easily there, So, but those players do not, there's the two levels of pay, but it's based on accrued service time there. They don't get paid any more for being a protected player. Now, there is a stipulation if they are protected and they're not elevated, then obviously I think they have the ability to opt out of their practice squad contract after that week, kind of thing right there. But in the whole, no, they are not. It's just one of the caveats of being protected is it prevents them from being poached by another team.
Yeah, to answer your first question, I think they probably will try to keep some semblance of these practice squad rules or expansion or something like that. The protections, I'm sure, will go away. That's not something the union would be in favor of, I would doubt. But I think overall just the expansion of the practice squad is something that hopefully will stick.
All right, this one from Seth Bergstein writes in, I read something from a Pittsburgh media member who said Butler calls first and second down and Tomlin calls third down. Do you buy it?
I didn't see that, so I don't know the source or any additional context. But, again, I don't have any evidence of that, so it's hard for me to buy that.
I mean, it's hard for me to buy it as well, too. I mean, could they be collective throughout this thing and maybe it's a little bit more visible? Maybe, nobody knows for sure, and Mike Tomlin's not gonna volunteer that information. So unless it came from a player or something specifically, I mean, does it matter? I guess people want to be able to point fingers easier, right?
Yeah, but overall, just credit to Keith Butler. I know I've been as critical of Keith Butler as anybody. He's got a lot of talent. He's certainly got a lot of good players to work with. But some of the pitfalls and schematic issues that existed before have been cleaned up. So kudos to him for improving on that.
And look, I mean, point blank. I mean, this defense has not played as well as what I thought they would out of the chute here. All right. Even so, the adjusted net yards per pass attempt stat says everything's fine, folks. It says calm down, and so does the 4-0 record, which is the biggest thing out of it. These next several, we're going to learn a lot. These next several games. Period. End of story. You go out and you take care. What is the narrative going to be, Alex, about this defense if they come out, on Sunday against the Browns and? Let's say they keep them to the magic 16, 17 points number. They're not awful on third downs. They're not giving up. They give up maybe three explosive plays on it. What's the narrative going to be? And say Minka has an interception like that. What's the narrative going to be coming out of this game if everything seems to be copacetic with the defense?
Yeah, I imagine things will go back to normal and people will say how good this defense is and things will feel more like last year. So, yeah, it's a big test for sure. If they lay an egg, I mean, these next couple weeks will define this defense, at least in terms of the perception of it. Either they are the dominant defense they were last year and certainly I think capable of being, or maybe a defense that isn't as good as last year, and a defense that is showing some regression. So I think these next couple games, and Sunday specifically, will be a big test for that. And just, again, overall, just recognizing scoring is up. I mean, offenses are averaging over 25 points per game through the first 5 weeks of the season. Last year, they were 22 points per game. So that is at least some context worth mentioning, that scoring overall is being increased across the league.
And you know what else, too? One thing I noticed when kind of checking back in on, let me pull up stats real quick on the adjusted net yards per passing attempt, kind of league-wide here. The Steelers, let's see here. Their pass defense 5.2 is the third lowest number in the NFL right now. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams with a adjusted net yards per passing attempt number under 6. Okay, and 6 has been kind of that magic. Really, kind of 5.8 has been my magic number for Super Bowl teams, okay, when it comes to that. Now, obviously, there's still not enough sample size, really, when you get into about 6 games played for all the teams. That's usually when you want to start looking heavier at this. Obviously, the Steelers have only played 4 so far. Several teams. There's been a few other teams that only played four games as well, too, here. But the teams that have an under 6 number so far are the Carolina Panthers. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody that thinks they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, right?
I'm surprised they're under 6, to be honest with you. But
it's 5.9, so I don't know how, if you ran out that decimal point, how far closer to go to 6 there. But Baltimore Ravens, that probably doesn't surprise you, right? 5.8.
Right. Nope, no surprise there.
Kansas City Chiefs, 5.7. Probably not a big surprise, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Here's a little bit of surprise for you. Cincinnati Bengals at 5.7.
Wow. Coming off a game against the Ravens, too. Interesting.
Chicago Bears, 5.5. Probably not a huge surprise, being the way their pass rush gets after it.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 5.5.
Yeah, that defense has really stepped up this year.
The Steelers at 5.2.
Okay.
Rams 4.5 for the Rams.
Yeah, Aaron Donald will certainly help with that.
Indianapolis Colts, even despite coming off of a game against the Browns where they lost, 3.8. That's not going to be sustainable for them, I don't think.
Right, absolutely. So, yeah, Steelers certainly in some decent company, and we'll see. And I understand they have not played these great offenses so far, but their numbers are low, playing bad offenses, and what do you want from them, I guess is my thing. But again, to the tape itself, the communication thing is still the biggest issue, the biggest concern that I have right now.
Here's something a little bit encouraging when it comes to maybe this week's matchup. Once again, 5 games. You'd like the 6 or 7 games is kind of a measuring stick here, but we've seen who the Browns played, so far, and kind of the opposing offenses and quality or whatnot. They enter this week with a 6.4 adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat. So it'd be interesting to see which way that goes from them. Obviously, if they lower that number this week, it probably will result in a win for them against the Steelers. Good chance of that. Obviously, if it goes a little bit higher than that, odds are probably pretty good the Steelers won that game.
Yeah, so I think it'll be a really good matchup. Really excited to watch this game Sunday.
I love that stat.
I've picked up on that.
Let's see. What else do we have here in the email machine? Charles Munger has a game for us to play. The Terrible Podcast Bingo card. Here's a sample podcast bingo card. I hope you enjoy it. Here are some of the spaces that people have to fill. They probably get to fill. Everybody probably has a damn bingo every damn podcast here. Power. New money. Train.
Train. That should be the free space in the middle.
Rabbit hole. Switzer. Tinfoil. New money. Comma. Machine. I'm always saying machine. Sack. Danny Smith is one.
That's me.
COVID. Minutia. Spark. Motion. Matt Canada is a space. Tomlin. Wordsmith, Lobster. That's got to be that's probably one of the tougher spaces, right? Lobster.
If we're talking about James Washington, though, it's a guarantee. The lobster cracker.
Palomalu, fungible. Fungible's been fairly an easy one lately.
You love asking those beat writers the fungible question.
I love it. I'm going to keep doing it.
I know.
Should I keep doing it?
Yeah, go for it.
Terrible is one. Hines, pin and pull. Evidently, we say pin and, or I do pin and pull, and then salary cap. So very, very creative by Charles. Got a chuckle out of that there. Richard Jameson writes in, some have claimed that Le'Veon Bell squandered a Hall of Fame career over greed. Do you agree? Richard, that's a tough one. You heard me talking about earlier in the podcast about Le'Veon Bell in the first couple years of his career and thinking, look, I mean, it's hard after a couple years to project a guy going in the Hall of Fame, all that kind of stuff there. But it really makes you wonder how Le'Veon Bell's career would be and where he'd be thought about in all this had he played 2018 and on with the Steelers.
Sure, it's a very fair question, and this is a Captain Obvious statement, but Le'Veon Bell's career would probably be a whole lot better right now had he stayed in Pittsburgh as opposed to going with the Jets. Now, again, I don't begrudge him for wanting to chase money. I'm all for players wanting to get paid and trying to get paid. The shelf life of an NFL career is so short, especially for a running back who knows injuries the way that Bell has with some of the things he's dealt with. So I'm not mad at him. I don't want to necessarily use greed in a negative sense, but there's no question that from a football standpoint, he would have been better off in Pittsburgh than the Jets, and he probably knew that too. But obviously he wanted to get what he thought he deserved, which is fair, and just didn't work out.
When these players have some semblance of success, the thing that kind of gets me sometimes, you get a guy like Le'Veon Bell his first couple years, and then you kind of see. And it happens a lot. It's just not just him. I mean, it happens not only in sports, but with humans in general. It's just how some of these players handle kind of the success and being told how great you are like that. There's kind of that shift in persona with him where, the whole rap thing. And I don't begrudge him trying to explore his talents as a rapper and all like that. But there becomes a point where some of these players seem more important for them to show their wealth and success and status and kind of flaunt it more so than others,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And look, I understand it's kind of here, and I'm getting deep here, I know, and Dave, give it a break and all like that. But as a 50-something-year-old guy, I notice these kind of things, okay? And especially in today's social media world and all like that, there seemed to be a persona shift in him, after year 2, 3, whatever it was there, that it became more important to him kind of how he was perceived off the field. And it makes you kind of wonder if that kind of changed the person. And look, I mean, there's no doubt the guy works hard in his training. He always has. He's constantly from day one posted videos about him down at Miami and Bommarito. But it seems, I guess what I'm getting at, it seems like he got too caught up in himself for his own good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he was, not one to shy away from the spotlight and be a presence on social media and do some of the rap stuff and definitely show that he had money. And again, that's fair if he wants to do that. I don't have a personal issue with that. It's whatever he wants to do. But certainly you saw that kind of change over the years, and there's no denying that, I don't think.
I mean, he's a different person now than he was when he came in the league, right? Or was this there and the fame manifested it?
Right. That's the whole thing. Like, money doesn't change your character; it reveals your character. I don't know. I'm not gonna armchair psychologist this stuff, but certainly I think that your assessment's fair.
So, what would your armchair analysis of me be?
All right, let me get the file cabinet out there of all the notes I have.
I can drive the psychiatrist crazy, can't I? You think?
You put a lot of them out of business, I think.
Yeah, I have. I'm not proud of that, but it is what it is. JSC Hernandez writes in, hey guys, decided to run through Claypool's college highlights and not sure if it's just me, but he looks noticeably Leaner, slimmer. What are your thoughts? Also love Mike Hilton, but do you see future teams scheming their bigger wide receivers in the slot against him like the Eagles did? How can they counter that? I'll tell you this. Look, I mean, sometimes your teams are going to try to, for teams that carry big slots. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have the situation present itself where you catch them in cover 2 man, like you had happen with Fulgham in that. I got to be honest with you. I've gone back and I watched that play, and I didn't remember that play being as close, and I bet Alex didn't either. Initial time through the tape there. I thought Mike Hilton played it well, and I think sometimes you got to take your hat off and hand it to him. So I guess, long story short, I'm not worried about Hilton's game, period, right now.
Yeah, I'm not worried either, but it is fair to say that obviously he's an undersized corner, like most slot corners, and if teams want to bump some big receivers inside or just happen to have big slot receivers is kind of becoming in vogue in today's NFL, it is going to be an issue, but that's a challenge that I think all teams have to have. It's a challenge that every opposing defense has to deal with when they have to face Juju Smith-Schuster. And if you want to move your star receiver to that slot spot, that may change his route tree, may limit his route tree. He may not be as effective on some of those quick in-breaking, out-breaking type routes. So there's a downside for teams doing that too if they have one of their stars that are playing inside more. So there's a trade-off. There is no easy answer to it. But Hilton is physical. He is competitive. He is feisty. And I think it's just a challenge that every team has to deal with.
Is it easy to say, though, that the game against the Eagles was Mike Hilton's worst of the season?
Probably, only because the other ones have been pretty good. I still had a sack in the Eagles game too. But yeah, again, and overall in our coverage metrics, and I know that's a small sample size, and this could change. He's got the best metrics of any Steelers DB right now, not named Cam Sutton, who again just has one target according to our charting. So he's doing better statistically than Minka, Nelson, Hayden, etc.
Jesse, go back and watch that on all 22 on that one down the middle. Look. Did you listen to Doug Peterson and Jim Schwartz post the media sessions those two have had since the game?
I read your article about Peterson giving Ben credit, but I didn't listen to it myself.
Fantastic, man. Absolutely. If listeners get a chance, you're looking for about 30 minutes to kill, sometime the rest of this week, go over to the Philadelphia Eagles site and go to the videos and listen to Peterson on, I guess that would have been Monday, I think, and then go and listen to Jim Schwartz yesterday. It just goes to show you, man, sometimes you call a defense and the other team figures it out, and that's, they are full on. Ben did a great job of catching us, and they had the right call and the right personnel and the right matchup in there, and boom, they got hit, and that stuff happens, man. I mean, we lose fact that, look, we covered the Steelers. We expect them to be damn near perfect in all facets of the game. But sometimes I think you just lose sight of the fact that, man, these other teams do their homework and have athletes as well too. So it's just got kind of good and I try to make it a point every week to try to go over to the other teams. And boy, what do you think about that Fran Duffy? The work that guy does.
Oh, he's excellent. Yeah, I bet Fran before. He's a really good guy and does excellent work.
Holy moly! Can you imagine that guy having a 2 hours? Look. There's no better, and you probably agree with this, NFL matchup, right? Cosell and Matt Bowen. That should be 3 hours long. Okay.
Should not be at 3 a.m. in the morning. Give it a better time.
Yeah, they should give it a better time. Or more than anything, they should make it on demand. Or why don't you just put ads in that thing and put it on demand?
For sure.
But anyway, that guy Fran Duffy does incredible film breakdown work. Probably one of the hidden. It's too bad the Steelers don't have someone that do that kind of stuff on theirs. And look, no family Tunch, and God bless Tunch too. And people say we haven't mentioned him. He's going through.
We mentioned that. We opened with the podcast.
Okay. Well, I guess people saying we didn't write about it or something, or didn't spend enough time on it. God bless Tunch and super great human and all like that. But boy, Fran just does next level stuff when it comes to the breakdowns and all like that. So I guess long story short, Jesse, run back to that all 22 and look at that play on Mike Kelton there, and about his other question here, Claypool's college highlights. Not sure if it's just me, but he looks noticeably slimmer, leaner. I got a theory for you, Jesse. It's kind of based off of what Claypool said in his Rich Eisen interview yesterday, which, by the way, is pretty good on top of that. Also, Pat McAfee is another one that just fantastic to listen to some of those interviews there. Number 11 is a slimming number.
He said that. Yeah, it's funny. He said he was offered 83, and he turned down wearing 83 as a college number, and of course the number that Heath Miller wore. So they're still able to give that away. Apparently, he chose 11 because it's slimming the verticalness of the number.
Yeah, I wonder, Jesse, if maybe that has something to do with it. I haven't picked up anything outside of that.
Yeah, to the best of my ability, I don't know the reason, but obviously you get an NFL program. Your now life as a professional football player. You're probably eating better. You're on a better strength and conditioning plan with Coach Guimont. So I'm sure just those benefits you get in the NFL of being in a NFL weight room and that kind of program probably helps you out some. But of course, his work ethic it seems like it's off the charts.
He talked about in one of these several interviews that he's done about the differences between an NFL week versus a college week and all, and how you kind of tapering stuff off at the end of the week, in NFL week. And it's kind of a little bit sometimes because of the time schedule. He says a little bit, I think of a reverse of that in college. Did you listen to that interview?
Yeah, it was interesting. He said in college he would go hard in practice all week, and then he would feel kind of beat up already going into the game. The NFL is kind of the opposite, where you want to make sure you're 100% for the game. That's what he said, right? That's how he framed that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
good memory on it.
Yeah, it was interesting, but a guy with a really good approach, and again, you combine his physical ability with his work ethic and his football IQ with a Hall of Fame quarterback throwing to him. You get a pretty good combination right there.
I think the most astonishing thing there you hit on the football IQ, the ability to get the trust, and look, Ben's not easy on these young kids.
He's deliberately hard on these kids.
And for this guy to come in and look, the level of trust now off that one play, and I hate to keep going back to that one play, but it was so significant. I thought on just from the play itself. The significance of Ben seeing that, Ben checking out of that, everybody being on the same page for them to run the kind of the double smash divider off of that, basically boiling that down to a one-on-one matchup, and that one-on-one matchup being a rookie on top of it, and then the results factor in there. I think just that one play on several different levels is very important, Alex.
Yeah, no, I think it is, and obviously you're referring to the touchdown, the final capacity card. Yeah, I mean that was monumental, and it'll stick with you. And again, a guy that did not have a rookie minicamp, nor OTAs, nor preseason, coming in 1 month into the NFL season, making plays like this. I just cannot repeat enough how impressive that is, because for a receiver where that position is just naturally tough to transition to, even under normal circumstances, what he's doing right now is really unique and really fun to watch.
All right, Bryce has a couple thoughts for us. Through the first 4 games, how would you assess the grade the play of James Washington?
It's been good. I think he's shown definitely effort as a blocker. Things have been quieter the last couple of weeks as Claypool's emerged, as Ebron's emerged, but he looked really good the first 2 weeks of the season. The strength that he's shown, again, from a physical conditioning standpoint, he's shown improvement there. So it has not been as loud of a performance, obviously, as a Chase Claypool, but it has been, I think, steadily improving year by year. And so kudos to James Washington for that. Yeah,
look, he's kind of, look, is he ever going to be kind of that premier guy? No, he's not. He's definitely already, look, Marcus Wheaton, you go back kind of a similar build, right? Sort of kind of similar players to some degree there. James Washington already, Marcus Wheaton had the 200-yard receiving game
against Seattle,
whatnot. I don't think James Washington maybe has one of those. James Washington is probably a little a little less further along than I thought he would be at this stage, and that's just from because he made so many big plays at Oklahoma State, but the kind of offense that and going against those Big 12
air quote defenses
and all like that. Maybe I should have pumped the brakes a little bit more on that aspect of it. Is he a guy that the Steelers are going to clamor to sign after his contract's over? Probably not. He's kind of an is what he is kind of player, right?
Yeah, but not a bad player by any means.
Right.
I know that you agree with that.
Not a bad player. It's good to see him overcome what had happened to him his rookie season. You know, the bounce back there.
If he's your number 3, more likely your number 4 type guy, it's a really good guy to have. A situational deep threat, a guy that's become more comfortable playing all over the offense. So yeah, obviously, he's not going to be a superstar. He's never going to lead your team in probably any major category, except, if there's major injuries like you saw last year. But I think a really good complementary piece to an offense.
And look, everybody's all enamored with the shiny new Chase Claypool toy they got for Christmas here last Sunday, though. Go back to last season. Remember those big plays that James Washington made last season? That contorted catch in the end zone against, who was it? The Browns. Obviously the touchdown against the Bengals on the pass by Duck Hodges after he came in the game. The end the bucket catches that he made down the sidelines last year with from a few of those guys. So I mean, we're not talking about chopped liver here.
Absolutely.
He's going to have a couple of big plays left in him. He's kind of a 40 catch a season kind of guy. I'm ready to see another home run.
Yeah, and I think, again, it'll be a popcorn type thing where one week it'll be Juju's week, one week like it was Sunday, it'll be Claypool's week, and eventually it'll circle back to Washington. So I think there's a lot of weapons here, and they'll all eventually get their performances, when you look at the season as a whole rather than just a week-by-week basis.
Bryce writes in, I definitely think Steeler Nation needs to pump the brakes on the Minka concerns. While he might not have the splash plays and turnovers yet like he did last year, he is impacting the game in a major way by putting a tight lid on most deep throws down the middle. Consequently, teams are working our corners more in an effort to move the football. However, I believe in the NFL, teams not being able to threaten the deep middle against us will come back to bite them because it takes away a major element of a lot of the passing games, and I expect our corners to start playing better as weeks go on. I think people are overacting about Minka right now. My biggest concern, as I've said, enough with the shoulder tackles there. Wrap these guys up. I think some of the plays, I think Minka's got a better rest of the season or more impactful rest of the season on tap for him. So we'll see. I'm not concerned about him. I know Alex isn't either.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I made that reference, I think, Monday, that a lot of these plays the Steelers are giving up are coming outside the numbers. Not all of them, obviously, but a good chunk of them. And some of that is certainly directly related to how teams are throwing away from Minka still. I don't want to use that as the ultimate crutch because there's certainly still an evaluation of Minka. But want to see some splash for sure, but I'm not hitting the panic button on him.
Based on how the Browns play their defense outside of Ben and Claypool, who's the Steelers' offensive player that you think is set to have a huge game on Sunday?
I mean, it's just so tough to judge, and I need to get into some Browns tape. I haven't yet. I think any of these guys are capable of stepping up, so I'll have to watch the Browns to see if I can find one particular weakness. But off the top, I mean, I think it's just maybe based on just an individual play, what a coverage is on a certain play or whatever the circumstance is, because there's talent everywhere. And so any of these guys can step up, have a big day, and it would not shock me.
I think you could see James Conner keep it 100.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it depends if Ogunjobi plays because he's a really good run defender. But if he's out, then their run defense is going to certainly be hindered.
Already in my head and what limited tape I watched on them, I'm thinking 125, 2 touchdowns for James Conner. How about that?
Coming in hot at the end of the show.
How about that on a Wednesday?
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Bryce, we'll be talking more about the Browns on Friday. Let's see. Bob Francis writes in, hi, gentlemen. With the trade deadline a few weeks off and some teams in the mood to sell, do you see the Steelers adding any pieces like they did with Vanette last year? Regardless, what do you each see as the strongest and weakest position groups? Have your feelings about the strongest and weakest groups changed since the start of the season?
What were our thoughts on the strongest and weakest? What was our weakest group? Was it inside linebacker? I can't remember. Tight end.
Just a depth, I think, and overall position group, and then the tight end, wondering what we're going to have there from a blocking. I think they're better at tight end, especially from a run blocking standpoint. I tried to point out the other day in a podcast that, look, I know Eric Ebron doesn't wake up every day thinking, oh boy, I can't wait to body up on to body up on somebody in there. He don't like to do it, but he's doing it, and for what his skill level is in it, I'm okay with it. Vance McDonald looks good on the move. I feel better about the tight end position group than maybe I did going into the season, and I would still say what's the weakest group positionally for the Steelers offensively? Maybe running back until we see a little bit more splash.
Yeah, I mean, there is no weak group. It's just whatever is the weakest group. I don't know. It's hard to come up with one particular one. I mean, yeah, maybe running back. I
want to see some more splash. I want to see some 10, 12, 13, 18, 22-yard runs.
All right, fair enough. And then to the question about trades, I don't expect it unless there's a major injury. Really, these moves have only been made, even Minka partially, but certainly Vannett was because of injury or poor play, and I don't see the team in that situation right now.
Yeah, I don't see it either, Bob. I mean, it's hard to even pick out a position right now that it would be. You know, it would probably be injury related if it did happen before the trade deadline, I would think.
Agreed.
Let's see if we can get a few more in here for the peoples. Let's see here, and I think maybe I've gone through. Wait. Here's one from Devin Murphy. This is great work, guys. I attempted to do some research after listening to Monday's podcast. Entertain me for a moment. In Madden, you have the option. Here's a question for you, Alex. In Madden, you have the option to coach your defense to be conservative or aggressive at the catch point. Upside, the conservative, tackling the catch. Downside, lack of splash plays. It got me thinking, could conservative catch point coaching be a factor toward the lack of splash plays? That made me wonder, would the Steelers rank in yards after catch allowed? Yes, the Steelers have played one less game, but they are number one in total yak allowed. They average 2.98 yards after the catch. That's also number one. Colts are number two at 3.41 yards after the catch average, while most other teams are 4.0 and higher. Am I bending the stat to fit my narrative? Devin Murphy.
So he says number one, and I assume that means the Steelers are allowing the least amount of yak.
Right.
Right, because the Colts are number two, and the Colts have a good defense.
You would, as Ed McMahon would tell Johnny Carson, you are correct, sir.
I get that reference for sure. He lied. They are a good tackling unit for sure. I think that's been a personality that this team has had for quite some time. Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson are physical against the run. They are good tacklers. I don't see them as necessarily being less conservative at the catch point. I mean, they were obviously very aggressive last year. I don't think that's changed. There's been no personnel changes, no coaching staff changes. I just think Travis Fulgham's done a good job of boxing some of these guys out. So I don't see a change in technique or coaching point or anything like that. I just haven't seen the results so far. And obviously, Joe Hayden was very aggressive on that 3rd and 5 and that crucial breakup we referenced earlier in the show. So good question, good stats, but I don't see any philosophical change that may decrease the number of splash plays.
Devin, keep tracking. My response to that A2 would be most of these teams have 4 games, right? 4 to 5 games. If you miss a tackle if one of these guys goes yard on you, I'm sure that could find what they call the. It'd be interesting to find a more something that took the biggest play and the shortest play out of it or something. The medium, if you will, on that. I wonder how much big plays can be impacting this sample size so far.
Yeah, I'm sure obviously there's some noise. I mean, the question, I guess, is just when do you start taking these numbers as big enough? Is it week 8? I mean, at what point do you sit there and say this is enough of a sample size? Because we are, for most teams, 5 games into the year. I mean, that is a decent number to start with.
while I will always talk about adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat early in the season, 6 to 7 games is really when you start getting a picture.
Okay, fair enough. So probably after the Titans or Ravens game, we can start getting a real good feel for this team and for what the rest of the league is doing.
Yeah, depending on how I want to play the results bias card after this week against the Browns. But make me pump the brakes whatever way it goes after the Browns. But yeah, look, I think after the next 2 games is usually when I like to start looking across the league and saying, all right, these are the teams. Just merely off of that stat and playing the and look, a lot that goes into that is the differential stat as well too, because if you have offense and defense and the defense is under 6 and you have the offense set and you have a nice differential of +1 or greater on top of that, things are definitely looking good.
Yeah, and things are looking good right now for the Steelers overall. 4-0, happy to be there.
Yeah, but Devin, keep kind of tracking that and throw that back in our face here in about 2 more weeks or so, 3 more weeks via an email there. Lou Munz writes in, hey, David Knox, long-time listener to the podcast, Steeler fan here living in Cleveland. Yesterday on the podcast, you were wondering the status of Wyatt Teller. Stefanski stated in his presser that Teller was week-to-week. Later, a reporter asked him if he meant day-to-day, since week-to-week seems like a might-miss game. Stefanski said, at this time, I think it's best to say week-to-week. So looks like Hubbard may start, and he's having a much better year than last. We caught up with our buddy Scott. Hope you enjoyed that interview, and thanks for that information as well, Lou. What else do we have here? I think one more, Jeff Berg. I want to make sure I try to get through some of these, Alex, here. We're 4-0, Jeff writes in. On the All-22 this season, are you seeing Juju just get blank? Maybe I read this the other day. Are you seeing Juju just get blanketed in coverage? Guess what I'm getting at is Juju underperforming? Could that mean we could get him for number 2 receiver money on to Cleveland?
I don't think we read this one on Monday's show. He's not underperforming. Again, I think it goes back to the popcorn of this offense. There are so many weapons that Juju, after week 1, we were talking about what a great game, what a great week he had, and I'm sure eventually we'll come back to that conversation. But you had Ebron step up in week 3, you had Claypool step up week 5, so I think it's just going to be a different guy every single week, and that just speaks to the depth and number of weapons this team has.
But you like that popcorn. Is popcorn your new word or
well,
what?
That's Tomlin's phrase. I'm stealing that. I usually use that in a negative way, but I'm using it for the offense.
All right. Look, I think there's no way Juju's game right now, nothing that has happened this year has lowered Juju's asking price market value, if you will, in my opinion. He's going to have his games where he has 2 touchdowns, 7 catches for 100 yards, and he's going to probably have a couple where he has 2 catches for 40, or 30 or whatever, I'm not worried about him right now. Long story short, I don't think his market value has suffered yet,
Yeah, and I think he'll have overall a very strong season.
One last one. Rick Vigil writes in, hey, I keep saying one last one. Hi, Dave and Alex. My name is Rick from Albuquerque, New Mexico. All right. He's out my way here. I want to go to Albuquerque, Rick. So hit me up with some places, maybe during, after the season where I should definitely me and my wife should definitely go to an Albuquerque. I'd like to take a quick weekend road trip to Albuquerque. Make sure I, make the right turn at Albuquerque. Love the podcast. And did you grow up with Bugs Bunny at all? How influential was Bugs Bunny in your life?
A little bit. I got the whole "What's Up, Doc" thing, and that's probably about the extent of my Bugs Bunny knowledge.
Boy, I watched a lot of Bugs Bunny growing up. All right. Love the podcast and paying ad-free subscriber to the Steelers Depot. Dave, I've heard you mention Sweep the Leg several times. Are you a fan of the Karate Kid movie, and have you watched the Netflix series Cobra Kai? Now back to Steelers. To the Steelers, heard Charlie Batch mention you guys several times on the Steelers post-game show, and any possibility you might have him on as a guest on the podcast. Keep up the great work. It's easier to get Charlie out of season or preseason than it is in season. I think we love having Charlie on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
great guest.
He is him and Chris Hoke the great guest. I think it's harder for us to get him during season than it is in season. Glad to hear him. And there's one guy that I think we don't give a shout out enough that's an outside friend of the podcast. That's Stan Savern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, legend in Pittsburgh.
He's always been good to Steelers Depot and the podcast, I think, as opposed to really most of the other ones in the media there. So shout out to Stan and Charlie Batch for that. As far as Karate Kid, yeah, I watched it. Yeah, it's just one of those pop culture things that stick in your head. Not overly a big fan of the movie. It's just one of those things that you tend to quote, I think, at times. If I had time to sit down and watch the Netflix Cobra Kai series, I probably would, just from a nostalgia standpoint. But no, I have not watched it yet. Look, I mean, if it's not football, if it's not some sort of a war historical, I've gotten into history, American history, quite a bit the older I got and all. I mean, if it's not football or one of those things, I struggle. Or if it's not a Star Wars movie or something like that, it's hard for me to get into it.
What's your favorite time period in terms of American history to
Man, I love the war stuff. I love Vietnam stuff. I love World War II stuff. I love 60s stuff. The political unrest. Just the whole element of the music and the music meeting the political, meeting the peace and love and war. Just any of that in there. The older I get, obviously, I'm gravitating back into kind of my youth, the 70s, kind of movement and all like that from a news historical standpoint, kind of stuff. I'm a huge Elvis fan. I'm a huge Kiss fan. Obviously early 70s music, Creedence Clear. I can remember growing up, the old reel-to-reel. We had a reel-to-reel in the house, and my old man putting on CCR and Creedence Clearwater Revival and Elvis. So there was a lot of Elvis playing in my house at an early age, that kind of thing. So, and it's probably because the age I am and where I grew up. And look, I didn't have the best childhood. All right, so I kind of go back to revisit the time period and all like that for some reason. It's probably because of, the period where I was really a kid.
Yeah, cool. I like the Cold War stuff, Cuban Missile Crisis, Bay of Pigs. That stuff's I've been reading some about some of that stuff lately. So yeah, a lot of cool history there.
But I definitely the stuff that I could give to what's about when I was in high school. Maybe because I didn't pay attention of it enough, I go back to it. And look, I mean, I love pop culture, 80s and all like that. So,
who's your favorite band? Is it?
Oh, I mean, Kiss. Yeah,
Kiss,
I mean,
okay.
I bleed it.
And you went to a bunch of Kiss concerts.
Oh yeah, I mean, it changed my life. Mom's taking me to a concert.
How old were you at your first Kiss concert?
7, 8. Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah,
Dang.
yeah. You talk about the wrong place. It was the wrong place for a kid, and it was the right place for a kid. At the same time there. Look, I mean, yeah, growing up through that era and all like that, I couldn't get enough of it. And obviously musical influences and all grew from there. But I knew I wanted to be a butthole from that time on. And I think I've done it pretty well.
I'm going to add that to the armchair psychologist.
Right. There's so much wrong for me, man. I don't even know where to start. But all right, with that, I think we've got through a bunch of them there. Alex, a great show today. We'll get after it on. This turned into a 2-hour show, did it not?
It did. And I apologize for the audio. I will get that fixed whenever they send me a new headset, which I don't know when that's going to be.
And I apologize for stuttering so much.
No, you're fine.
It is what it is. With that, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex Kozora on the Twitter machine at Alex_Kozora. We're going to be giving away some more of these Sports Center. What did you think about that one I gave away? Isn't that a nice product that we gave away on the Twitter machine the other day?
Yeah, it was awesome. And by the way, a little bit of late-breaking Steelers news for you right before we get off the pod.
We hung out just not long enough.
Thank you for talking about KISS and helping us out there. According to Burt Lawton, offensive lineman Stefan Wisniewski will practice today but remains on the reserve injured list. The team has 21 days to activate Wisniewski to the 53-man roster. So Wisniewski back at practice today.
They couldn't outthink us. They couldn't out-delay us. They tried, but we got it in at the tail end. So Alex will be busy writing that up. Follow him on the Twitter machine at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you love us or you hate us, you want to donate to the cause, regardless, go to SteelersDepot.com or go to PayPal or go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button upright navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, you know what to do. Go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free version for $25 for 1 calendar year. You can have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com. Peace and love to everybody. Thanks for listening. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.